She talks to the people all night long, chatting and a-gabbing and a-singing her song. All the divas down on Rainbow Street love to hear Toni go tweet, tweet, tweet. Talking Toni, talking Toni. Oh, talking Toni, gonna talk tonight.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Toni with me, Toni Holmperm, the singing diva of Long Island. This is my little place on Strong Island Television where I get to talk to some of the many fabulous people here on Long Island and around the world. And today, coming to us all the way from, I hope it's sunny today, sunny California, is writer, director, actor Todd Graff. That side. Hello, Todd.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
How are you today?
Hanging in, doing, I don't know, I can't remember a pre-Zoom time anymore.
I know. It's like everything now is like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, basically.
Exactly.
I remember things by whether or not I had to wear a mask, so.
I remember things by whether or not I had to leave the house.
Yeah, that too. It's been crazy here on Long Island because not only with the pandemic, but we had hurricane force and tornado strength winds the past couple days, and
I heard Sunday you're having frogs.
Oh, terrific! I've tried frogs' legs, and I just can't get the thought of of those little frogs hobbling on like one crutch. So I can't.
Well, these will be fresh because they'll be falling from the sky.
These will be fresh. Now, Todd, for anyone who's watching who is not familiar with you, and shame on you if you are not. How could you not be familiar with Todd Graff? Todd, you are a actor, a writer, and a director. I think it's safe to say that for the past few years, you've really concentrated on directing.
For the past few decades.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. But I have to point out, I got you on this show because I called in a favor with your sister Eileen Graff, who was my guest on my Christmas special that we did this past December.
Yes.
So
we had a great time. I think she's watching now.
Yes, she must be because she asked me. She's like, where is it? Where's the link? Where can I find it? So I had a quick message her to tell her. So far I've had Eileen, I've had your niece Nika, now I have you. So we're making all the family rounds. So
now all you need is Randy.
I know. Now, Todd, going back, looking at things on IMDb, one of the things that I saw, and I was like, oh my goodness, you were one of the kids on the Electric Company.
I was indeed. That's how old I am.
Please don't say that because I watched them when they were brand new. So it's impossible.
You watched it learning to read. I was on it as a cast member.
But I have to tell you, I mean, I always loved the Electric Company, and for me, I was like, I wanted to be one of those kids so bad. I can't tell you. I was like, I would like say to my parents, I'm like, look at these kids. They're on TV. I'm like, my career is going down the toilet here. I gotta get on something. And they were like, just do your homework. Just do your homework.
My parent, Rita Moreno was on that show. And my parents, when I got the job that I knew I was going to be on the show, my parents said, and I was a child, obviously, my parents said, oh, she's in a Broadway show. We'll all go to the Broadway show, and we'll go backstage after, and you'll introduce yourself because you're going to be working with her. I said, okay, great. I was a little kid. It was The Ritz. Remember that play, The Ritz?
Yes, The Ritz.
It took place in a gay bathhouse.
The gay bathhouse play, yes.
with many hunky, naked guys walking around. That's what my parents brought me to as a child, to meet Rita Moreno, which it was fine. I was very precocious, but Rita was a little surprised when I walked backstage.
Did it have a lasting effect?
I own the DVD.
I think I have it too somewhere. What was Rita Moreno like?
She was lovely. You know, it was, for me, I never really wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a writer, always. That's all I remember ever wanting to be. But Joe Raposo, who wrote a lot of the music, like he wrote the Rainbow Connection, you know that song?
Yes.
So he wrote a lot of Sesame Street stuff, and he wrote the Electric Company stuff. He was a very close family friend. And through him, when I was not one of the original 5 kids that were on it, I was a replacement kid. And when they knew they were going to need a new kid, he said, well, you should have Todd come in and audition. So I went into the office there to audition. It was just, my dad was a musician and a pianist, so he played, and I sang Corner of the Sky, which was my big audition song at the time, and got the job. And so I was unprepared for what it actually meant to be a professional actor, because I'd only been like a studio kid jingle singer and stuff. I actually sing on the theme song for the Electric Company and the theme song from Sesame Street, along with, little known fact, Giancarlo Esposito.
Wow.
Yeah, Gus Fring, the killer on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He was 9 years old with me, and he's there singing on the Electric Company theme song. Yeah. But anyway, when I did the show, I wasn't a happy camper because I didn't really want to be an actor. And Rita was really sweet about it. She was, you know, she was one of the ones that always kind of looked out for the kids on the show.
And Morgan Freeman, was he on while you were on?
He was. He was not my favorite guy.
Really?
I think he would be the first to say he was going through a rough patch when he did that show. Like, he knew he was one of the greatest actors in the world, but he was playing Easy Reader on the Electric Company. So he did a lot of extracurricular mood enhancement activity that was frightening.
We're not shared with the. It is what it is. I know for me, and actually, my producer Bobby, I was telling him that you were on the Electric Company. He was like, that was my favorite show. He said, I love that show. I was like, I know, me too. I was like, you know, when I saw that, I was like,
I was always mortified they would ask me to dance because I don't dance. And
don't dance.
My husband now,
don't ask him.
When my husband goes to YouTube to look at the clips of me when I was a kid, it's horrifying to see. Oof, it's painful.
I saw one clip. I think you were in like a giant pinball machine, right?
I would not be at all surprised.
Does it bring back fond memories?
Yes, you didn't know you were opening up such a bitter vein when you brought this up.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
No, I'm thrilled to have done it. I've had weird zeitgeisty things in my life like that when you're doing them at the time, obviously you have no idea that that's going to matter, you know, but I just had odd things like that. Like I recorded as Choo Choo Charlie, you know, the Good and Plenty, Choo Choo Charlie was an engineer.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
I literally recorded an album as Choo Choo Charlie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a whole other part of my life was my kid singing career, like weird, iconic commercial TV things that stopped when I was like 11.
Oh, is that when your voice started to change?
No, it's just when they stopped calling. No, you know, that's not true. A little after that, I did weird stuff like I sang on a Carly Simon album.
Oh, Carly Simon.
Like odd stuff that, because I'm like you, I'm like just this kid from Long Island, but because my dad was a musician, he knew whoever, and I somehow got on that track, and I really just have been working my whole life.
Actually, I don't know if you saw, Eileen had put on Facebook, she had a YouTube video of your dad, and he was backing up Nat King Cole.
Yeah. What is this Facebook you speak of?
The book of the face.
I've heard someone talking about technology. You know, I barely could make it onto this Zoom today, so I'm not on Facebook. I don't even know any of that stuff. But yes, she emailed me the clip. It was great.
Mm-hmm. I was watching some of it, and of course, you know, he sounded great. And I forget. I'm sorry. What was the name of the group that your father was in?
His group was the Beachcombers.
The Beachcombers.
But he also performed with the Pied Pipers, which was famously created by Frank Sinatra.
Right. Yeah, I remember Eileen telling me about. I think she remembered like sort of being backstage with your dad and like seeing like Frank sing.
Yeah, we always talk about how she had a completely different set of parents than I did. Like when she was a kid, they lived in Las Vegas. They were headlining at the Sands. My mom and dad were always sort of putting on, you know, fabulous outfits and going to openings. And when I was a kid, because Eileen's, you know, older than I am, when I was a kid, we were living in Queens. My mother was like chapter president of Hadassah. My dad was getting on the subway to go to work. I don't even know who those people are that she grew up with.
It's like a whole different life.
It is.
Oh, that's funny. But apparently, showbiz runs in the Graff bloodline. I mean,
it does. We used to say we're the Jewish King family.
The Jewish which family?
King family.
The King family.
Yeah. You're too young to remember the King family.
I don't remember them.
No, they were before your time. They were very famous. They were a big family of performers, and they always had primetime TV specials. And they were very goyish, but they were famous.
Okay. Well, I remember the Osmonds.
Yes, I do too.
Does that count? I don't know. I mean, they were,
it
you know,
does.
There was a lot of them.
There were a lot of them.
There were a lot of them, and a lot of teeth.
Yes, and still.
Yes, and still. So now, after Electric Company, I'm looking through because you know I'm you know on Facebook, Todd. Since you don't know about Facebook, when like generally like when a girl is like you know wants to go out with a guy.
Right.
She goes through everything on his Facebook profile and like try to find everything about them. So right. I kind of did the same thing with you. I went through everything I could find on IMDb. I see here you did now I don't know was it called Pop or POP?
Pop. It was. I mean I don't remember why they abbreviated it. I mean you know.
It was like P.O.P.
It was a pilot that never went. You know, they didn't pick up.
And it was starring B. Arthur.
It sure was, and Charles Durning.
Oh, they didn't tell me that, but
and in a minor supporting role, Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher. Now I have to ask you, was that the first time you met Fran, or first time?
Not only was it the first time I met Fran, I was doing Baby on Broadway. And I left the show to go do this pilot in Los Angeles. So I was going to be there for 2 weeks, a sitcom, half-hour thing. But it was Norman Lear, and he had sort of taken me under his wing and signed me to a deal. And so he created this thing for me where I played him when he was young. And B. Arthur and Charles Durning played based on Norman's parents. Okay. So, and Fran played someone who worked in the office or whatever. I don't think she even had lines in the pilot. So, at the first table read for the pilot, I sat down, and I was the lead. So I sat down next to Norman, and everybody else sat down around the table, and there was one empty seat, which was next to me. And then Fran, who neither I nor anyone else knew who she was at the time, came in 20 minutes late. But looking like so fabulous. And she sat down next to me in the only seat that was available, but she didn't have lines. So we go through the whole table read, and I never heard that voice.
Oh.
And then, as soon as the thing was over, I turned to introduce myself, and she says, "Hi." And I said, "Really? Coming out of that? Okay." And she said, "Where are you from? You have an accent." I said, "I have an accent." I said, "I'm from New York." "Yeah, obviously, but where?" I said, "Queens." She said, "Where in Queens?" I said, "Belrose." She said, "Belrose. Oh, you live near Creedmoor."
The psychiatric hospital.
A mental institution, which was down the block from where we grew up. I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm like starring in my first TV show." And she sits there and says, "Oh, he lived near Creedmoor. We used to hold our breath when we walked past his house because we didn't want to catch it." She said. We hit it off immediately. By the second day, I had moved out of the Universal Sheraton and into her and her then husband Peter's house. And I lived with them for the next 2 weeks. And we've been, best friends now since 1984.
Wow. That's amazing. And of course, becoming friends with Fran led to some other things, which I'll get to. I promise.
Well, I got nothing but time. There's a pandemic.
I'm gonna try to hit all the major notes here as much as I can. Okay. Then there were, a few other things that you did. Movie Not Quite Paradise, Sweet Lorraine, Five Corners with Jodie Foster, Tim Robbins, John Turturro. Yep. And then I had forgotten about this movie, Dominic and Eugene.
Yeah.
That was, and I remember seeing that movie, when it was first out, and it was kind of like a modern day of Mice and Men, right?
Yeah, it was. It was I always remember it was about two brothers who were fraternal twins, and one of them was mentally handicapped.
Right.
Due to some accident at birth or whatever. I can't even remember the plot. It was so long ago. But, so in that older brother, one brother protective of the simple-minded other brother was very Mice and Men. But the thing is, when that movie, Dominic and Eugene, came out, which I think is a really nice little movie.
Yeah.
Tom Hulce and Ray Liotta and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
When it came out, it didn't do very well. People didn't go.
Yeah.
And I remember the producer saying to me, we all made this because it was a story we believed in. It was one from the heart. Of course, we wish it did better. But look at the subject matter. It probably never really stood a chance of doing very well. 6 months later, Rain Man opened. Mm-hmm. Same plot.
Right.
Made $1 billion. Won every Oscar.
Right.
So clearly it was not the subject matter.
But I still to this day, I remember that movie. I remember it was such a well done movie. It really was very heart touching. So I mean,
oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a nice movie.
It's obviously something to be proud of. That to be a part of something like that.
Yeah. No, I was as an actor, I was. I mean, with a couple of exceptions, I was always very, I didn't like acting and I didn't want to be an actor, but I was happy that I got involved with projects that were, that were nice things to be involved with. Mm-hmm. Good people.
And then after that, Todd, came something really way out of left field. The Abyss, with directed by James Cameron.
Yeah.
And not only did you have to act, but you had to get wet, too, on top of that.
And I don't know how to swim to this day. I have a pool. I don't go in it.
Now, I remember, when I was seeing shows about them making it, and they had made, a huge sort of pool that they put, black balls on the top of, so that when you guys were underneath, it was not only were you underwater, but you were almost in pitch blackness too.
Yeah. Well, the movie takes place in the Abyss, so it's supposed to be thousands of feet below sea level, so it had to be dark. Mm-hmm. What they did, because no one had ever shot anything like this before, it's very typical of Jim Cameron, he sort of creates the technology as he goes. And in this particular case, we went to the borderline between North and South Carolina, where there was a nuclear power plant that had never been activated, called Indian. No, I can't remember what it's called, but it was in Gaffney, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so, when you see a nuclear power plant, those sort of big cement funnel-looking things.
Yes.
That's where we shot.
That's where you shot.
Inside that, they filled it with water. Then they filled the top with a gazillion black beads, which for a year afterwards, I was finding black beads like in my laundry.
Oh, that's like my sequins.
Or glitter.
Or glitter.
Yeah. And so you would go, and when you would spend all day underwater, you have to decompress before you come up. Mm-hmm. So we would watch dailies underwater.
Wow.
Like they would, everybody just with their masks on and their oxygen tanks watching what you shot from the night before, because we would go up to 10 feet. You could hover at 10 feet below sea level until you were decompressed, so you didn't get the bends, because if you came up having been down all day without decompressing, it's dangerous. So it was considering I can't swim, it was a crazy project for me to be involved with.
I mean, coming from, really what you were doing before was more traditional movie and TV. Mm-hmm. Coming into that, were you just like, flabbergasted about
I was indeed. Jim Cameron was a big Dominic and Eugene fan. He loved that movie. And so when he wrote the character I played in The Abyss, he certainly didn't write it for me. But I was kind of the prototype for him. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't audition or anything. I didn't, go against other actors. He was staying at a hotel in New York, and he had me come in, and he shot. He had a little camera, and he shot from the moment I walked in the door, and he just sort of talked to me for 15 minutes, and he said, I had you in my head when I wrote it, and if you want to do this thing, it's a big commitment. It's 6 months. No one's ever tried to do any of this stuff before, but if you're game for the adventure, it would be great. And so I did, and then, that relationship is. I'm working on a project right now where Jim is actually a character in it.
Wow.
In the project I'm doing now, because of what was going on with he and I at a point in our lives long ago. Mm-hmm. So it's a very odd, if you know me, it's a very odd thing for me to do a movie like that, mm-hmm. because I don't swim. But again, it feels like it's a cool thing to have done.
Oh my goodness, yes. And of course, Todd, I have to ask you, what was the working relationship with the hamster like?
First of all, it was a rat.
Oh, it was a rat. I thought it was. I'm remembering it as a hamster.
Yeah, my Aunt Lonnie watched the entire movie like this. She said,
she can't
she didn't want to see it on my shoulder. Beanie. I watched Beanie be born. He was like a little pink pencil eraser when he was born, and then I had him virtually since birth, so that he could be acclimated to me.
Wow.
So he lived with me for a couple months before we shot, and he lived on my shoulders so that he would be used to that. And I, went everywhere. I went to the dentist with him. I went to the movies with him, so that he wouldn't be freaked out by cameras and people and noise and whatever. And he was like domesticated by the time we were doing the movie. And then I kept him for 2 years after the movie.
Oh,
because rats don't live that long, but that's how long he lived. But he didn't have a cage. He just lived in my apartment on Hudson Street.
Oh, that's so nice. I always, I'm a big animal lover. So whenever I hear about something like that, it just makes me happy. Now I have to ask you, there was that scene where they put him in like the liquid oxygen. Yeah. Was that real?
It was real.
Wow.
It was real. It was, I forget what it's called. It's oxygenated floral blah, 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 something that the military has. It's way too dangerous to use on any human being. I'm sure if they've tested it on people, they haven't been open about the fact that they've tested it on people, mm-hmm. but they certainly tested it on rats. Oh. And we only needed a rat to do it.
Right.
So It was real. If you watch that scene, it's not scripted. Like everybody, the whole movie is scripted, and that scene is improvised because no one knew what it would look like. Wow. So we just stood there along with the audience afterwards and watched it happen and reacted as we reacted.
Yeah, I'm sure probably if anybody was going to film that today, probably PETA would be up in arms.
I'm sure you're right.
But nowadays, it probably could be done, and you wouldn't know anyway.
Yeah, I would imagine. But they didn't really fake very much. I mean, the aliens are CGI, but he invented that CGI for the Abyss. The water tentacle then became half the movie in Terminator 2.
Right.
And so, but most of it was real. We really were underwater. They really built to scale giant, underwater submersibles. We really drove those things ourselves. It was like a crazy. We were there for 6 months.
That's amazing. I mean, I still rewatch that movie to this day. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. And what like you had that desire that you wanted to direct? I'm sure even at that time to work with someone like Jim Cameron. Did that really just get the gears going that you were like, I want to do that?
Well, the thing is, I became a director because I had been a screenwriter for a while and had a bunch of movies made, none of which turned out like I thought they were going to. Like when I would go to the movie, it didn't look like what I had in my head when I wrote it.
Right.
And I thought the only way that's ever going to change is if I direct it. When I worked with Jim, though, it's, he was like a general of an army. There was like 800 people on the working on the movie. It was we took over a town. He was operating on such a scale I could never have even conceived. Even now, I can't conceive of operating on that scale. The movies I make are much smaller than that. I don't know that I could ever do anything like that. But he's a genius and he's a visionary. He doesn't have the greatest bedside manner because he's in a hurry and he's got a lot of stuff to do, and he can do almost everybody on the set's job as well or better than they can, and he just needs it to go. But to stand back and watch one brain contain all those moving parts, the totality of it, it was pretty amazing.
It really is, and I can't imagine what that whole experience was like. I mean, really, what was a nice Jewish boy from Long Island doing there under the ocean, like driving these military
in South
boats.
Carolina, Mittendrennen, right?
in South Carolina, of all places.
I had horns when I would go out. It was crazy. It was really, really crazy. But, the hardest thing about it was just the isolation. You're in the middle. They don't build nuclear facilities near anything. So
that may be a good thing.
Yes, I agree. Except when you're making a 6-month-long movie. Then, we had each other. The actors had each other, but that was really it. I left for a few weeks because I had a play that I had written that was being produced in New York. So Jim rejiggered the schedule so that I could go to some rehearsals, But other than that, I was just there.
Wow. Well, at this point, Todd, we're going to take a quick break just to hear from our sponsors. We're just going to take a very short break, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to hear about a lot of other stuff that you've done, because there's a lot to talk about.
During the break, I'll close the window so you don't hear the airplanes.
Okay. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
All right, stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back with more of Todd Graff here on Talking Toni. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talking Toni with my very special guest, writer, director, actor, Todd Graff. Thanks for sticking around for the second half, Todd.
It wasn't even enough time to pee.
I know there isn't. Trust me. So I should have given you a heads up about that. Now, Todd, we spoke about the electric company and Dominic and Eugene and being in the abyss. One of the probably the biggest budget movies too of all time, probably.
I think if you did it in today's dollars, it was very expensive then, but we're talking 30 years ago.
Right. Now, after that, you had there were some a few things you did, but in 1992 is when finally a movie that you wrote came out, Fly By Night.
Yeah. I didn't direct that, but I had written a play that was done off Broadway in New York that ultimately I adapted into a movie called Used People. But the play was directed by a guy named Steve Gomer, and he was about to direct a movie, his first movie. And he said, do you want to be in it as an actor? And I said, yeah. And so that was Sweet Lorraine, where I was as an actor, and we had a great relationship, and I said, I'm going to write another movie, and this time you can direct it, instead of, it being a play, or me being an actor but not writing it, and that was Fly By Night, which, in keeping with the checkerboard insanity of my, psyche, was one of the very first hip-hop movies ever made.
Yes, and again, what's a nice Jewish boy from Long Island writing a hip hop movie?
I don't know. I'm a very deep well, Tony. Very deep.
Same. I can certainly appreciate that.
And you have the décolletage to prove it.
I do. I used that term when I first came in. I said to Bobby, I said, "Is my décolletage showing?" And he was like, "I've never heard that word before."
Oh yeah. So it's like when you were a kid and you would say your epidermis is showing.
Right. So Bobby, our producer, he's getting to hear the word décolletage a few times today. He's never heard it before.
Well, it's fabulous and beautifully accessorized.
Thank you. And then I saw. I remember this movie, Strange Days.
Yeah.
You played.
So that was
Texarkana.
That was because of Jim Cameron. So Jim wrote Strange Days, and when he was and Catherine Bigelow, who he was married to at the time, directed it. So when they were working on it, putting the script together, Jim sent me what he calls a scriptment, which is like a 50 or 60 page hybrid of script and outline and ideas, etc., to work on with him. And so, because I previously just written a movie for him to direct, and so I worked on this scriptment thing with them, and then they finished the script. And when it came time to making the movie, they said, well, do you want to be in it just for fun? I mean, you were so involved with it creatively. And I said, well, I wouldn't mind having a scene with Ralph Fiennes. I wouldn't mind meeting Ralph Fiennes. And so they said, great. And they had me play a character that has no legs. And I thought, oh, this will be cool. Jim Cameron is one of the most famous, visual effects people in the world. They're going to Forrest Gump me. I wonder how it's done. I'm so fascinated to see. In this wheelchair with no legs, what they're going to do. You know what they did? They said, sit on your legs.
Sit on your legs.
And I sat on my legs. And that was the high-tech Jim Cameron Strange Days effect that they had.
Oh, well. Looking at that, remembering that movie, it was kind of interesting because the theme of that is so relevant to things that are going on today, because in the plot of that movie, somebody takes a video of I think he was like a black rapper, and he's a victim of police brutality, and it was like there were a lot of things in that movie because it was supposed to be like it was sort of futuristic. It was set like a few years in the future
for the turn of the millennium, going to year 2000.
That's right. I remember at the end they were like watching the changing of the year.
Right.
But I was like, wow, there was somebody like you must have been looking in a crystal ball when they were coming up with all these concepts.
Yeah. Well, she's been on the right side of history with that always. Catherine, she made this movie Detroit a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. That also was about police brutality against African Americans, and and rightly so. She was just way ahead of the curve in terms of her passion about that issue. She's great. I love her. She's a great.
Yeah, but also a lot of the even like the little technological things about like. Although I remember, I think it was Tom Sizemore was like physically hooked up to something that was like giving him pleasure directly into his brain. I mean, we don't have that, but I mean, people are really addicted to their phones and their devices in a very similar way.
That's James Cameron. I mean, famously, he's I think. On The Abyss, he got like 10 patents for things he created that had never been used before or done before. His brain is just 3 steps into the future at all times.
Yeah, well, it's an amazing movie, and I have to unfortunately, my internet is down at my home, but I want to find that on Amazon Prime and rewatch that movie because it was such a great movie and so relevant to what's going on. And now, of course, after that, you reunited with your good friend Fran Drescher, and you wrote The Beautician and The Beast. That movie is just so funny. I love that movie. That movie is hilarious. I just adore that movie.
She's really, by that point we had been, very close friends for a decade. And as I said, I met her long before she was famous. And then to watch her become famous on The Nanny was so fantastic and surreal because it was Fran. Fran from Flushing. Except now she couldn't walk down the street. It was nuts. And then we realized, you're famous now. We could do a movie. Mm-hmm. And so we had this idea of sort of recontextualizing movies like The King and I, where like the governess goes, or The Sound of Music, where the governess suddenly goes to a foreign country and teaches them all how to be Hamish and Freilich and in touch with their life spirits and all that stuff,
right? Which
is very much what Fran is like. Mm-hmm. And so we pitched the idea to Paramount. They said yes, and we really felt like they gave the keys to the kingdom to the kids, because we were now just sitting around writing and producing this movie for Fran. It was nuts. We went to the Czech Republic to do it. It was crazy. It was crazy, but super, super fun.
And what was Timothy Dalton like? Because I'm just trying to imagine, because he's so British, probably I don't know if he's like Shakespearean trained, but like
he is.
But for him to come in and and like be playing this character,
he's awesome. First of all, he's obviously a very good sport, right? But beyond that, he's a great guy. I love him. He became a good friend. And this is another, I mean, maybe people know this, but when I connected the dots, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. At the time, he was married to and had a child with a woman, this Russian pianist who was gorgeous and wonderful. And, my dad came to the Czech Republic when we made that movie, and my dad's in Beautician and The Beast. And so, because my dad was a musician and she was a musician, they hung out all the time. They were thick as thieves. My dad was 50 years older than her, but they became like best pals, and it was, oh, Oksana, she's so great. Anyway, we finished the movie. Time passed, years passed. Timothy got divorced from her. We all just kind of drifted apart a little bit in that showbiz way. And then one day, I, like everybody else, heard on the news all this crazy stuff about Mel Gibson and his wife. And, the screaming and the beating and the blah, blah, blah. And it was like a huge tabloid sensation. You know who his wife was? Oksana.
Oh, that was her.
I was like, Oksana, who hung out with my father for 2 months and played like Brahms? And isn't that nuts?
That's funny.
I mean, I guess it's not nuts if you're not me, but for me, it was nuts.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's really something. But that movie is I can still watch that movie over and over. It's just so funny. I was actually watching the trailer today. I was able to get like YouTube to work for a little bit, and I really empathize with Fran when she's trying to like get the liquid eyeliner to dry. When she first meets Timothy Dalton, she's got the one eye closed. I can totally sympathize with that.
That would never happen to you.
No, never. But oddly enough, this past June, I did an online virtual Pride show for here on Long Island, and Fran was one of the performers. I mean, we didn't meet or anything, but we were actually both in the same show.
Oh, great! We'd love her. I'm very biased, but she's wonderful. She broke the mold. We love her.
She's wonderful. And, I really want to talk to you. Now, as I said, I know your sister, Eileen. Eileen's husband, Ben, is sort of, is kind of like, not exactly related, sort of distant, sort of extended family of my husband's, I guess, right. is the best way to put it. Now, when I first met Eileen, I said to her, Eileen, I have to tell you, your brother Todd directed one of my all-time favorite movies, which you wrote and directed, the movie Camp.
Oh, thank you.
That to me, that is like, as far as LGBTQ movies, that is like one of the hallmark of great LGBTQ
oh, you're so kind to
movies.
Say. Thank
I
you.
mean, it really is. That's another movie I have watched, repeatedly. I just love that movie. And Eileen had told me, the germ of the seed for you writing and directing that was from the experiences that you had as a like a drama camp coach or tutor.
A camper. I mean, I worked there also. There's a place called Stage Door Manor in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. It's been around for many years. It's still a hugely successful, wonderful, life-changing summer camp for kids to go and do theater. And particularly when I went there, they were, now it's really beautifully run. When I went there in the 70s, it was like the Wild West. And so... I was Robert Downey Jr.'s counselor, right?
Wow.
There were a long list of famous actors started out when they were children, 10 years old, 11 years, going to this camp. Natalie Portman, Mandy Moore, Zach Braff, Ansel Elgort. It's like an endless list. Downey. And when I went there, I was like an aimless, screwed up 14-year-old, and I didn't know, I was isolated, I was whatever. My parents thought this would be good for me, and I got out of their car to go into the lobby because the camp is in a hotel. It's not like a camp, it's in a hotel.
Oh.
And so they have 7 theaters, and I went into the lobby, and only children, right, including the ones playing the piano. There was probably 12 kids all around the piano with one of them playing, and they were singing, Bobby, Bobby, Bobby Baby, Bobby Booby, Robert Darling, which is the opening number from Company, a Stephen Sondheim musical from 1971. And I thought, these are 13-year-olds, and they're singing every harmony contrapuntal part to a Sondheim show. And it never left me. The passion that these kids have, myself included, for musical theater. And when I wanted to direct a movie, to write a movie that I would get to direct, I knew it needed to be something that was personal enough that they couldn't hire someone else to do it. Because I now had 5, 6, 7, 8 movies that I wrote that they kept hiring other people to direct. And I thought, no one's going to know this material better than me.
Right.
So I moved from LA back to New York, and I spent 5 years trying to raise the money, and then we made it in, I think, 16 days or something, 17 days, and it was really, for many reasons, just a very important thing in my life. I mean, I'm very proud of the movie, but it really showed me that you have to walk the walk. You can't just kind of talk the talk. I kind of gave up everything to get that movie made, and once I did, it changed the trajectory of my career. I was a director after that.
Yeah, well, I just have to tell you, I mean, I just love that movie so much. Out of, every movie ever been made, it is definitely one of my all-time favorites. I just love that movie so much.
What are you doing next Thursday? Could we do this once a week?
Oh, absolutely. Bobby, pencil me in for next week.
It's a deal.
But I just love that movie, and actually a lot of I think really again, it was a movie that was really ahead of its time, with showing LGBTQ youth, which I don't really remember anything before camp that really
there
dealt
probably
with that
wasn't
subject
much.
matter.
And the thing about camp that was important was to make it casual, was to make it, there was no stigma attached. The stigma for the kids being gay was when you were outside of the camp.
Right.
The camp was Oz. The
Right.
camp was in color, And so the Michael character, Robin DeJesus's character, was a drag queen, obviously, and tries to go to his prom and gets beaten up as a result.
Yes, I remember that. I was watching the trailer again, and
but in the camp, the whole camp dresses in drag for him.
Right.
So it really was important to me that it show this oasis. This way forward, a way that you could be, that there was a community of kids like you, if you could just kind of find them, like these characters found them.
I know when I saw that movie, I was like, oh my, if I could have gone to a camp like that as a kid, it just would have meant the world to me. But obviously, when I watch it now, I'm like, well, at least kids today can watch that movie and know that there are places like that and LGBTQ youth organizations.
Absolutely.
That
Thank God.
So
thank God it's a different world.
Absolutely.
And it's still tough. It's still tough for them.
Yes. But even with what we have, it is still tough. Now, let me ask you, Todd, was when you were first going to the camps yourself, were there a lot of gay youths?
I would say 96% of the boys were gay.
The toxic
and 94% of the staff. It was just not a thing you even thought about. You assumed everybody was gay there. It didn't matter if you were 10 or if Jonathan Saul, he was probably 8, and he used to in the morning at a normal camp they'll blow a bugle over the loudspeaker. Jonathan Saul used to go every morning. He was 8 years old. Get on the loudspeaker and sing, "Good morning, good morning. It's great to stay up." And that's how we were woken up every morning by a child doing, Debbie Reynolds.
Well, it works for me.
It worked for me too.
Also, notably in camp, I mean, I think it's fair to say that you discovered Anna Kendrick's from
We
the
certainly
Pitch Perfect
got her
movies.
SAG card. Yeah, it was her first movie.
And
Yeah.
wow, what an amazing talent! Did you when she auditioned? Did you see
No,
that?
it wasn't that. I went after her. She was in High Society on Broadway with my cousin Randy. And
Ah,
so I knew her from that because we would hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother, Randy, me. We hung out because she was like the little kid in Randy's show. And she's from Maine. Her parents weren't there. She was just like on her own with her brother in Manhattan.
geez.
And she was a little girl.
Uh-huh.
And I knew she was brilliant. And so I wrote the part in camp for her and then did a workshop, like a stage workshop of it. And there were it was Leslie Odom was in it, and Anna and Laura Bell Bundy, and a whole bunch of kids that had never done anything before.
Mm-hmm.
And she was somebody that when we then got to make the movie after the workshop, when we got the money, she stayed with it because it was written for her from the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
I mean that where she does that ladies who lunch number is just. I mean it's such a great moment in the movie. It really is.
Thank you. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. She's pretty great. Sondheim, it was funny because obviously Sondheim's in the movie. It's the only movie he's ever been in. And when I didn't know him, I just wrote the script and sent it to him. And so when he agreed to be part of the project and let us use his songs for nothing, which was very generous of him.
Wow.
I mean, we couldn't have afforded. We had no money. We made that movie for nothing. But he said when he saw the movie, he said he always hoped that at the end of Ladies Who Lunch, when Elaine Stritch sang "Rise, Everybody Rise," that the audience would rise.
Would actually rise, yes, yes.
And he never got to see it happen until camp.
Until you did it, yes. I also remember the scene where they're doing from Dreamgirls, and I'm telling you, I'm not going. That was a great moment in there.
That was so wrong. I wonder if you could do that today. I wonder if you could get away with it. But yeah, it was the thing in the real camp. They have black kids that go there, but not a lot. And so they want to do shows that are inclusive, but what are they going to do? 90% of the kids are, white suburban Jewish girls from Long Island. So
Right.
they do things like Once on This Island, which is an all-black show, but with like one black kid in it and 43 white little girls. It's so crazy up there. So anyway, it was such a specific thing about the camp. I wanted to figure out a way to bring it into the movie, and that's what we did.
Yes. Well, as I said, one of my all-time favorite movies.
Thank you.
And we also have to talk about Joyful Noise, which you wrote and directed, starred Dolly Parton, Queen Latifa, and one of my personal favorites, Jeremy Jordan. I just
His first
I
movie
love
too.
him so much. I actually do his version of Over the Rainbow Home. It's kind of like my signature song, but another great movie. But again, how does a nice Jewish boy from Long Island write a movie about gospel singers, a gospel competition?
I know it's. I don't know. My mother, my sister. My mom was a choir master.
Oh,
She led choirs, and so my whole childhood was women coming over to our house to smoke cigarettes and rehearse. It was like ask Eileen. That's what we grew up with constantly for years, my whole childhood. And so I wanted to do kind of a movie about my mom that honored my mom, and I knew I wanted to be choirs and whatever. And then I got very, very passionate about gospel music, just musically, and decided that I wanted to try and figure out if I could do something built around gospel competitions because they're so great. And so I just wrote it. I pitched it to the movie studio, and I said, if I can get Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah who I wrote it for, to do it. And they said, yes, if you get those 2 women, we'll make it. And so I went to Nashville, and I had never met Dolly Parton in my life. And I sat there in her living room, and you heard her long before you saw her because of those heels coming down the hallway. She showed up. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. She looked as fabulous as you do now. Completely done. Done. Ready for her close-up. And I said to her, one of the first things I said to her was, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you look like this? And she said, honey, you'll never see me not look like this, ever. And I said, she said, if you would have come at 8 o'clock in the morning, I would have looked like this. I said, what if I came at 5 to 8? She said, I wouldn't have answered the door.
She's amazing. I actually have to tell you, I recently I've been doing like my own song parodies on Facebook and YouTube. I actually did Dolly's Jolene, and I turned it into Quarantine. So I'm gonna send you the link to it, and
definitely
maybe you could forward it to Dolly and just maybe she could just give a little love.
If you think I'm a Luddite with technology, Dolly only has a fax machine.
Oh my Lord!
If you want to talk to Dolly, you have to send her a fax.
A fax?
A fax.
Oh my God! Can you fax a video? I don't know. I'm willing to find out.
Yep.
But
I'll tell you my favorite Dolly story.
Yes, please.
Of which there are a million. I worship her. But one of my favorite ones, she had her guitar, right? She's a great musician, plays like 15 instruments. She had her guitar, and then she went to take her guitar off afterwards, and the strap got caught in her wig.
Oh, no!
You know, she has a bust just for her wigs.
Yeah.
So her wig got caught, and it took like her nephew is her security guy / assistant. He's a great guy, Keith, and and they disentangled it finally. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be like. Can you imagine if you saw Dolly without a wig?
Oh no!
Like, birds would swim, fish would fly. It would be the end of the world. So they did it without her wig coming off. And I said to her, "Are you okay?" She said, I'm fine. She said, but there is a woman in Korea screaming right now. Because that's where they made the wig.
Yeah, I know. I know. Although I'm sure her wigs cost a good deal more than mine. I'm sure.
I don't know. She's pretty devoted to them.
I can empathize. Truly. I would be very little without my wigs. That'd actually be about 2/3 less of me without the wig.
Do you name them like RuPaul?
Oh no.
No.
Not at all. Oh, now, Todd, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the hour. I can't believe it. But if you could tell people what upcoming projects are you working on now?
Ooh, well, let's see. Right now, I met my husband, who's Colombian, from Colombia, online, and he was a 90-day fiance. And I mean, we're together 8 years now, but back then, that's how we got together. And our relationship, I always wanted to turn into like a show or something, because it was so crazy, our whole thing, and continues to be. And so now we're doing that as a half-hour show. And if you look at me, who would you immediately assume should play me?
I don't know. I don't know, because I always think of you as you. Who?
Billy Porter.
Billy Porter?
So it's Billy Porter playing me.
Okay.
In the story of my relationship with my husband.
Okay.
And it's called Mail Order Bride, MALE.
Now, is this supposed to be a TV series or a movie?
We want to do an anthology that's called Un-American Love Stories. So each season is going to be like 8 or 10 episodes of one story. The first one is Mail Order Bride. The second one will be another relationship between somebody who's an American citizen and someone who is not. The second one's going to be about someone who finds out that they are a DACA dreamer didn't know it their whole life, and suddenly they get a thing in the mail saying they have to leave the country.
Mm-hmm.
They never, they were brought here when they were 9 months old. So it's going to explore that dynamic.
And where's that going to air?
Well, we shall see.
Oh, you don't know yet?
Shall see. I hopefully would be able to tell you if this was a week later than today, I think, But so working on that, and have another thing, the Jim Cameron thing, which is like a true crime thing. Jim hired me to write a movie about a guy who had multiple personality disorder, who was a criminal and who got off using multiple personality as his defense. Mm-hmm. And this is a 6-episode limited series being done with the people that did Mrs. America. Did you watch Mrs. America?
No.
It was just on Hulu. Oh, it was great. About the Equal Rights Amendment, and Gloria Steinem and Bella Abzug. It was great.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for it, yes.
Right. So I'm doing it with them, with those producers, but it's not this guy Billy Milligan's story, the now we call it dissociative identity disorder. Mm-hmm. It's not his story. It's about the time that Jim and I spent with him putting together the movie, and because that was far crazier than anything else.
Wow, that sounds so interesting.
Doing a bunch of stuff.
Well, as long as you're keeping busy, that's the most important thing.
I thought you were going to say, as long as you're eating.
Well, that too. I remember what was it? Eileen and I, we were at a wedding, and what was that line talking about? Because I'm half Jewish. My mother's Jewish. My father is Italian. But so technically, when your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. But there was that saying about the Jews that they tried to kill us. We survived. Now let's eat.
Yes.
That's basically every Jewish holiday is
exactly.
celebrating that they tried to kill us. We survived. Now let's eat.
We're such an optimistic people.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't harp on the past at all.
No. But Todd, I wanna thank you so much. This has been such a dream of mine. To get you here on my little show here on
it's my great
Long
pleasure.
Island.
I think it's wonderful. Continued success with it. I love what you do. I love how you do it, and pleased as punch to be a part.
Thank you so much, and of course, if you ever need a singing drag queen, hint, you know where to find me.
Well, there aren't many of you. There's a lot of lip syncing drag queens, but not a lot of singing.
I sing live. I don't lip sync.
Good for you.
Well, I'm gonna send you that YouTube video.
Yeah, sure. Do.
But again, I want to thank you so much. This has been a dream come true to have you here. I wish you so much continued success, and hopefully, maybe once that new show is online or on air, maybe you can come back and we'll talk about it.
We used to say next year in Jerusalem, but now with the pandemic, I'll settle for next year in Burbank.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Next year in Massapequa.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much, and I want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch Talking Toni tonight with my very special guest, the one and only Mr. Todd Graff. And I will see you all again in 2 weeks' time. So please, everyone, stay safe. Just put the mask on, okay? Just deal with it for a little while, okay? All right. There you go. Todd is showing you what to do. Just put the mask on. Stay safe.
Easy. Simple.
Easy peasy. Thank you, Todd, and thank you, everyone, and everyone. Have a wonderful night. Good night. Mwah.
Twilly-dilly-dee, 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 tweet, 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 tweet.
She talks to the people all night long, chatting and a gabbing and a singing her song. All the divas down on Rainbow Street love to hear Toni go tweet, tweet, tweet. Talking Toni.
Tweet.
Talking Toni. Oh, Talking Toni gonna talk tonight.